first, I really hope my voice goes all the way to the end. So I hope you can bear with me. Yeah, my voice. Anyway, yeah, so I want to start this talk by sharing a little bit of a personal story on like basically how I end up in the free software community. And it was some years ago when I started to care about my privacy and my data, and that's kind of like how I started to get in contact with some free software solutions. And then with that, I also started to notice how, like, the huge impact that technology has in our lives, and how it is shaped by so many actors. So one of them, you, the ones that have the knowledge and the skills to actually create the technology, but also by decision makers who have the responsibility to regulate such technology. And since then I became interested in creating that bridge between these two actors and helping them to understand one another, and kind of like serve as a bridge. And that is the reason why I'm here today to talk about policy topics, the same way I also talk with decision makers about free software. So yeah, first let's start to talk about who we are. Yeah, so we are the Free Software Foundation Europe. We are a charity that empowers users to control technology, and we do so with free software. And I am Lina Ceballos. I'm a policy project manager at the Free Software Foundation Europe. And yeah, we work in a lot of policy-related activities, and that's what I'm going to talk today. But first, I always like to start with the basics. Probably some of you know this by heart, but some don't. So when we talk about free software, we're talking about 4 freedoms. So the freedom to use, to study, to share, and to improve the software. And whenever one of these freedoms is absent, then we're not talking about free software anymore. And I think it is important to always remember this because, yeah, nowadays there are some, they want to restrict some freedoms, some of these freedoms, and I think it's always important to remember that these 4 freedoms are what free software is. Yeah, so to get a little bit into the topic of our policy activities, we have a very nice campaign or initiative called Public Money, Public Code. And we, basically with this campaign, we are demanding that all the software that is developed for the public sector should be available for the public. And this means to be under a free software license. Because if it's the code paid by the public, that should be also available to the public. Yeah, so with this campaign, we also use it as a framework. So whenever we're addressing decision makers, we always bring the arguments behind this initiative because they're really precise and they're very clear. And yeah, we basically use them to make them understand first the importance of free software, but also the importance of spending public funds in the most efficient way and how that relates to free software. Yeah, so for this campaign, we have also an open letter that you can also sign as individuals or organizations, but also by administrations. So far we have 7 administrations, some from Germany, from Spain. We have the Parliament of Asturias and the city of Barcelona. Yeah, so this is what we do. We also approach public administrations, and then we demand this, and we try to explain them the whole idea behind Public Money, Public Code. And these are some of the organizations that have support or call. That doesn't mean that the ones that are not here are not like working on this either, but yeah, so far these are the ones that have joined our yeah, open letter. Okay, yeah, so now to actually get into the policy topic, today I'm going to be talking about mainly 2 EU institutions. One is the European Commission and the European Parliament. There is also the council, but because of time and the matter of the talk, I'm not going to get into it, so I'm just going to talk about these two. So let's start with the European Commission. So the European Commission is the institution that can propose legislation. So whenever there is a new legislation, so is the European Commission coming up with a first proposal. And today I want to talk a little bit about the framework that they have worked to share their public infrastructure to an extent. And I think to talk about this, it is important to talk about the EU FOSA and the EU FOSA projects. We were some pilot projects that were given by the European Commission, by the European Parliament to the European Commission. And they were basically kind of like some programs to audit and fight vulnerabilities in the free software that the European Commission was using, or like the EU institutions, actually. So first it was EU FOSA, that started in 2014 or so, and then after that, EU FOSA 2 came, which was already like groundbreaking because then this program was already extended with EU FOSA 2. And what they did there was they just organized bug bounties and hackathons, and just basically tried to audit as much as they could, the digital infrastructure of the EU institutions. However, there was not budget allocated to this, and yeah, in 2020, the EU FOSA project, the EU FOSA 2 stopped. But then in 2020, the open source strategy came. First, like this open source strategy is not a law, so it's, as it says there, it's a communication from the Commission to the Commission. So basically, it's not like a binding document or anything like that. But anyway, so in this text, first we welcome that the European Commission already acknowledged the benefits of free software. But the text itself is rather weak and a little bit ambiguous to be a strategy of its own. So here, some features were introduced, such as the Open Source Program Office, which actually acts as a facilitator for activities online in the strategy itself. And activities such as FOSA 2 were mentioned, but it was also not mentioned why they didn't continue. Yeah, so the text, it's a little bit ambiguous, and then I'm gonna give some examples. So for instance, there is a part that says that wherever it makes sense, the Commission will share the source code of its future IT projects. So this is something that we somehow criticize, because instead of going on the direction of free software first, they came up with this wording that whenever it makes sense, so we don't know when it makes sense and to whom it makes sense. So this is what we mean by being ambiguous and, yeah, not being clear to be a strategy. There is another example, for instance, that here I just copy the text. So there will be somehow the Commission have the freedom to choose non-open technologies where there are good reasons to do so. So again, what are good reasons and to whom these reasons are good, and so on. So yeah, this is the kind of like loopholes we found in such strategy. Yeah, however, then 1 year later, then the Commission came up with the decision. So this was a step, because then it moved from to be a project or to something more legally binding. So this is a legally binding document. And with this decision, then they just want to define the conditions for the Commission to share the open source with them to facilitate the reuse and the sharing of such software. So basically, they kind of took some of the activities that were included with the strategy, and then they just put it in a legal binding document. And apart from that, And this decision also included the public repository, which is something that we also demand or try to demand within our public money, public code campaign, which is that, I mean, if you're gonna share the software and the code, then this code should be in a public repository. So now we have a public repository from the Commission to share their open source whenever it makes sense and when there are good reasons to do so. But I mean, this is a step. Now, I mean, we acknowledge that the Commission is trying. It's not perfect, but yeah, it's definitely a step. So yeah, this is basically the framework that there is within the European Commission. So now let's talk a little bit about the Parliament. So once the Commission presents a proposal, then the European Parliament and the Council work on a text, and then the three institutions find a common text, basically. So I'm going to mention some of the digital topics that have been keeping us busy over the last months, but I also want to show, I mean, this is kind of like an overview of what we're actually working on. The green files are related to liability and free software. So yesterday, my colleague Alex talked about this like in depth, so I'm not going to touch that much, only the AI resolution. And then I'm just going to basically talk about these three. So the AI resolution, the Declaration of Digital Rights and Principles, and I would mainly focus on the Interoperable Europe Act, which is something that is going on at the moment, and that we are being active on this. Okay, so let's start with the AI resolution. So basically, this was when the when the EU institutions wanted to regulate the AI technologies, then they, or the Parliament, created a specific committee called AIDA Committee, which was created mainly to work on this resolution. So first of all, this is a resolution, not a regulation, which means that it's not a legally binding document. But this resolution it was supposed to serve as a guideline for the ongoing AI Act, which is the regulation. And then we stepped in because since it was going to be a guideline, so we thought, let's start from there and then let's try to transfer this into the AI Act. And then within this, and we managed from the European Parliament to bring something on public money, public code related to AI. So there is something that, again, where appropriate, some open source software can be procured when it comes to AI solutions. And I mean, I like to bring up this example because this shows first that, I mean, this specific part, this specific wording was voted, and then it found a huge majority. So this shows that the European Parliament is, you know, willing or like acknowledge the benefits that free software can have, even for AI solutions. So this was something good and positive that we found after the whole process. However, as I mentioned, then this is not a legally binding document. So, I mean, yeah, this is not law, but it should be a guideline for the AI Act, which is happening at the moment and will be voted next week. And yeah, I'm not going to get into it. Yeah, so the second one is the Declaration of Digital Rights and Principles. And with this, we decided to step in because this declaration will serve as a reference point for the digital transformation of Europe. So basically, we saw the opportunity and then we decided to also pick this fight. So with this specific declaration, the outcome was not ideal, at least not after the interinstitutional negotiations. At least from the European Parliament, they actually understood the importance of free software on AI, because there is a part on this declaration that refers to AI technologies. So the European Parliament understood this importance. However, this wording that we managed to include in the European Parliament text, so to say, then it fell short of its ambitions after the interinstitutional negotiations. So after Council and Commission, the three of them worked on the final text. And then the final text was somehow it makes references to promoting interoperability, open technologies, and standards, which for our perspective, it's also a little bit ambiguous. The wording is not super clear, and the wording that it was from the European Parliament text was way better. So yeah, this was not a good outcome. But again, I wanted to talk about this specific example because this again shows that the European Parliament already understands the importance of free software. And now let's talk about the Interoperable Europe Act. So last year, the European Commission proposed this act. And basically what they want to do is to have a cross-border regulation that it will help the EU, but also member states, specifically public administrations, to deliver interoperable digital services. So basically, they just want to regulate how administrations can communicate with one another. But yeah, I mean, let's bring an example here. So basically, what we're talking about in this specific case is, let's say you're driving from Spain to France, and then you're taking your car with you, and then you go to France, and then you want to find a parking spot. And then this machine that gives you the ticket to be able to park doesn't recognize the plate from Spain, only recognize plates from France. And then you are unable to park in the specific place. So this is what we're talking about. So just digital public services that public administrations have to deliver to citizens. And that's why interoperability is important, because then you can basically do this, and these two systems can speak with one another. So, I mean, this is it's super interesting that they want to regulate this. And again, the role that free software can play in interoperability is really important. And that's why we also decide to step in with this act, which is ongoing at the moment. So the proposal already acknowledged the crucial role that free software and open standards have. However, we have found some loopholes, and I basically want to talk about this right now. But first, I want to explain what's new, or what this act wants to implement. So basically, they want to create some kind of governance structure. So they're going to create two bodies. They're going to create the Interoperable Europe Board and then the Interoperable Community, the European Interoperable Community. And basically, these two bodies it's kind of like a bottom-up and top-down workflow. So basically, the board will be the one setting up the agenda and the priorities and actually making the decisions, because they're going to be able to set up this agenda for a whole year. And they're going to check on the community and rely on their expertise. And yeah, basically, they're just going to get input from the community. So regarding the specific point, this is one of the first loopholes that we found. And then so far in the board, there is not inclusion of any of the stakeholders apart from, so the board will be, so far how the text will be composed by one representative of each member states, the European Commission, the Committee of the Regions, and the European Economic and Social Committee. So this is how the board will look like, how the text is at the moment. So we can see that there is not really like any civil society involvement there. And it is true that we're going to be part of the community, but we have to keep in mind that the board is the body that has the decision-making power, and they are the ones setting up the agenda, and therefore that's why we find crucial that civil society or the open source community is present in such board. Yeah, so this is one of the first loopholes we found. Another point that I want to make here is that, I mean, of course, there are so many other things that they want to implement, such as training and peer reviews and sandboxes. But because of the topic, I'm just going to focus on the features that we believe that can affect the free software community, or somehow you can get involved and so on. So this is not going to be like a completely thorough analysis of the text. Yeah, so the second thing that I wanted to mention is that basically with this text, they want to make mandatory sharing and reusing the software, basically. But then the way the text is written at the moment, it says that when requested. So we believe that this is where free software can play a role, and this principle of going on the direction of free software first, it's important, because if you want to make mandatory being able to share and to reuse, then first of all, you should not request it, because then if you go in the direction of free software first, then you can actually do it without requested or being requested to do so. And then you should be able, if you don't do it, then you should explain why you're not doing it, basically. So this is something on the wording that we find a little bit problematic, and that we're also trying to advocate for. They also want to implement some kind of assessments for public administration. So basically, the new infrastructure that they want to create, if they want to procure something new, then they have to follow certain requirements, so to say, and then they will give a label, because now everything has a label. So they want to also implement a label for interoperable solutions label. So if you run this assessment and then everything is good, then this technology then has this label of interoperable solution. And another thing that they also want to introduce, or not introduce, but kind of like regulated as part of this whole framework, it's a portal. So basically this will serve as a single entry point for all public administrations to share their solutions. The board will also share the agenda there. And yeah, basically through this portal, then administrations will be able to communicate and speak with one another. This is something that can already exist, which is called JoinUp. So they want to just build on this and make it, call it the European Interoperable Portal. So basically, the things that we found problematic was first that there is no inclusion of civil society nor the free software community in the board. And we believe this is really important, because we are the ones, or you guys are the ones that have the expertise and that could actually guide the board in making such decisions, such as setting up the agenda, even more when you're talking about interoperable digital services. But then there are other things, such as there is not really like indicators or something to measure all this, or the progress of such activities. So it would be really difficult to actually monitor the progress if there is such of these activities, because there is not really indicators that we can use to do so. So this is something that we found a little bit problematic, and then we also trying or aiming to improve. Again, there is not a dedicated budget for this, so I think I already mentioned this before, but this is an issue, and we believe that, we know that this is not a funding program, and it doesn't have to be too specific, this budget in this text, right? But it has to have at least a reference where the money is coming from, and this is not the case at the moment. There is also lack of the reference of the definitions of what free software is and open standards are. And we believe that this is important because, because we need to understand what we're talking about. So if we're going to talk about open source, then we need to know that we all mean exactly the same thing. So these definitions need to be included as well in the text. There is something with procurement. So, we know that procurement is a national affair, so the EU cannot do much. This is a member states thing. But what the EU can do is to set up some kind of guidelines for member states to provide kind of like cross-border procurement, so to help member states in establishing a common and harmonized way to procure open source, especially. And I think this is the right place to do so, because if we're gonna talk about interoperability, we're gonna talk about administrations from different countries speaking with one another, then we also need to set up some kind of guidelines of the way public procurement is taking place. And last but not least, we believe, as I already mentioned, that if you're gonna have free software interoperable solutions, then these solutions must be included in a code repository. So basically what we saw before, this can be reused instead of creating something new, but administrations should be able to share their code there. And in this way, it would be also easier for other administrations to reuse such software. And yeah, that's the reason why we believe that this place is the right place to have a free software first approach. So if we're gonna talk about interoperable digital solutions, then let's go over the direction of free software, because I think we all here agree that it will, the role that free software plays for such a goal, it's super important. And this is the place where such approach should brought up. So as I mentioned, this is something that is going on at the moment. Now we are meeting decision makers because the parliament is working on this text. And we're trying to influence how this text will look like. And we're also trying to bring up these demands that I just mentioned here, and also to translate this to them and showing them the importance of free software. And we believe that this is the moment when we need to step in and actually help them to understand and to guide them to bring this free software first approach. We don't know how this is going to look like. As I already mentioned with the declaration, this can change. This cannot change. This cannot be changed or something like that. The text can look so different in the end, but at the moment we're actively advocating for free software in the specific case. So just to kind of start wrapping up, I want to share a little bit with you how you can also get active. We are a very small organization, and we have very limited resources, so you can also help us. And how can you do that? So first, you can always convince your public administrations. You can always use the demands from our public money, public code. We have a lot of material. We have a brochure that we have translated in various languages. So you can always address them and talk about this with them. You don't need to go there angry and tell them that they have to change everything, they have to migrate everything. But if you go in a friendly way and try to explain them why free software is important and how free software can help them, this is a huge step. And here I also like to remind you that when we talk about public administrations, we are talking about parliaments and the city hall and so on, but we're also talking about schools, universities. So you can always talk with your university or your school. You can also go to like your local or your region and then talk with public administrations there. Of course, if we address this in a higher level, such as city halls or parliament, it's great, but you don't need to do that. You can always go for low-hanging fruits, such as schools, universities, etc. And of course, you can also sign the open letter as an individual, but also as an organization. So if you have an organization, you're more than welcome to sign the open letter. And again, if you can convince your local public administration to sign the open letter, that's also something great. But we also like to tell that the end or the final goal is not that they just sign there, the logo appear on the website, and then after that they don't do anything else. But it's way better that they actually talk about this, they know, and they become aware of this for the upcoming decisions they make. And this is connected to spread the word, so you can help us spreading the word. We also have a promo material that we can ship for free, so you can go to our website and get stickers, leaflets, brochures, everything, and then you can also actively share the word, because we need you for this. And of course, you can always donate to us, because we are a charity and we are based on donations. So if you like what we're doing, we are very happy to get your donations. I prepared this very nice QR code. If someone wants to scan it. You receive 5 donations. Yeah, so I'm gonna wait. But I also have it here small, so you have some time here while I get some questions to scan, and But again, you can help us with spreading the word or just really sharing what we do. We share a lot on our website what we're doing through news items, press releases. So everything that you can share is more than welcome. And I hope you somehow enjoyed the talk, that you didn't fall asleep, because of course after lunch it's also a little bit challenging. And I'm very glad my voice managed to finish the talk. So thank you very much, and So.
Well, do we have some time for questions?
Yes.
Or if anyone wants to say something?
I was really clear.
Okay.
Okay, I can. All very interesting, thank you. But all the different acts, the digital rights, the interoperability, and you say it's in discussion and you're lobbying, etc. And you don't have a timeline, but do they give? There's no timeline and no budget. Is that what I understand? There's no budget allocated to this very, very important detailed work.
I mean, regarding the timeline, I would dare to say that at least the Interoperable Europe Act wants to be done soon, because they also changed the presidency. And next year there will be elections in the European Parliament, so I feel like they want to get this done soon, and it's also not such a problematic file as the AI Act or the Cyber Resilience Act, so I think this will be done soon. So there is not like a strict deadline, but there are already some kind of deadlines, at least from the European Parliament. The leading committee wants to vote on the report in July, if possible, and then this will go to plenary after the summer break. So it's still some time. And regarding the budget, there is no mention of where the budget for such activities will come from, and this is something that we're at least trying to bring into the discussion and make them aware that these activities also need a budget. And I think other stakeholders and other actors are also realizing the importance of such budget. But as I mentioned, we don't really expect that they will go through this, they will include a whole budget on this text, because this is not the right place. But at least a mention of where the money should come from, it should be in the text or something. Yeah, thank you.
Any other question? We have still a few minutes.
Thank you very much for for the talk. I have interest in a related topic about the recent debate about privacy and encryption and some regulation in this area. And the conversations that we are hearing about is now the topic are currently saying that encryption is going to be weakened, privacy is at risk, and I have curiosity about if the Free Software Foundation has discovered something that can affect open source developers in this area, in this now incoming regulation that we'll be seeing in the next future.
Maybe I have a question back. Are you talking about this chat control, this new
Yes,
proposal where they want to kind of scan?
It's just chat control.
Yeah. I mean, we're actively not working on this. We've been discussing, and we know the risks that this legislation has. But as I mentioned, we are a really small organization, and we have to pick our fights. So that's why there is a lot of things happening at the moment on digital things and digital matters, and we have seen it over the last months with new proposals. But at least from our side, it's really difficult to, from the staffers, to step in. But we rely a lot on our community. We have a big community, a big team as well, not only staffers. And this is something that we are aware of, and we are also encouraging others to step in and to help them and to guide them. And that's why we also said, if you have any ideas on how to do this, or you want to exchange some thoughts on this, you're more than welcome to send us an email, and we will, somehow guide you or, encourage you to do so. But from our side, it's a little bit difficult in terms of human capacity, I would say. Yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.